All right, we're back for another round of binge watching. As always, Johnny Spoiler. Love movies so much I might expoil it. Expoil it. See what I did there?
Spoil.
David, I combined excitement with the word spoil for expoilment. That means I'm going to excitedly spoil a movie for you. Oh. I almost said on purpose, but usually I say by accident because I'm so excited about the movie. We shouldn't let them know.
You're just so excited you don't know which way to go yet, I guess.
Don't know which way to go. And then joined as always by Dangerous Dave, who's so dangerous. If he doesn't like the movie, he's gonna tank it in the trivia section. And also Jordan Savage is here, who's so savage she doesn't even have to watch the movie. She can just tell you simply by title alone whether it's gonna succeed or fail. However, she texted me about every year somebody updates this image of like all the Halloween movies on DVD or at least their posters to try to show how they're all connected on like a tree or whatever. But there's too many branches or deviations now. And Jordan's like, explain it. Like it can't be explained. Because we would spend the whole podcast just trying to unravel how the movies are or are not connected to each other.
It's a serious graph. Like, I was very impressed. And I was, yeah.
Well, it's like, I mean, me and John were talking back and forth. I mean, Halloween is basically like a comic book at this point, in that, like, in printed comic book, you'll have like different artists or writers take on, and this is our version of it for this series, and you know, this and that, and that's like exactly what Halloween's become.
Yeah, they could make all future sequels just like legendary stories of Michael Myers that has no continuity whatsoever to each other. I mean, they did. Okay. I mean, that was the original goal for the Halloween movies, was that every year there would be a different specter or boogeyman or thing to deal with. You know,
right? Like, it's like Scooby-Doo, like how there's an unmasked monster every single episode, but the stories like just never connect.
And he didn't really have a name in the first movie, and he was only loosely connected to the babysitter in the first place. It was like they were literally archetypes; they weren't even fleshed out. It was like the shape versus the babysitter. You know what I mean? And the doctor's there for support. You know, like a sage-like character. But then they did this whole backstory in part 2, like, oh, she's the little sister, and he's the older brother, and he's come back for some kind of twisted family revenge or whatever because of his, you know, crazy. I don't know. I don't even think they really explain why he's a psychopath in the original movie. But then the original continuity of movies has there's 6 movies that all go one through the other, with the exception of part 3. It has nothing to do with Michael Myers, but they're all pretty consistent. They exist in the same universe at the same time in the same town, Haddonfield. But then, like, oh, let's do like 20 years later. And then they killed that girl, Laurie Strode, who played by what's her name?
Jamie
what's her
Lee
name,
Curtis.
David? Jamie Lee Curtis. And then like they have, you know, Crystal Michael Myers, where they put him down like a dog and he gets killed by Paul Rudd. And then they're like, oh, let's give Rob Zombie a chance. And then he makes 2 movies that restart the whole thing. And then now we have this guy, David Gordon Green or whatever, right? Danny McBride's friend, producing these movies with him and like making these 3.
Isn't like the origin of him becoming a serial killer because his like oldest sister's a little bit of a sleut? Like it follows like the classic rules of like if you have sex, you die.
Well, the only thing we see is like as far as his origin story in the original movie, yeah, he catches the older sister having sex with her boyfriend while he's dressed to go trick or treating, and it's like he snaps, and that's his first victim. But
well, that's like Loomis throughout the sequels just saying he's pure evil, he's pure evil. Like there's no explanation.
Oh yeah. Later on, the mythology expands that he's like beyond human. He's like a force of nature. The later sequels, like the one I mentioned where he gets beat up by Paul Rudd, is like they tie it into Norse mythology that like he's trying to make himself immortal or blah 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 or whatever.
Interesting.
But I mean, like, so anyway, there's like a raging debate among fans, which we'll get to in a second. But I want to remind people like what show they're on. That's this show.
Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge-Watchers podcast.
Where's your glass, David?
I just have a can right now.
Oh, he's got a can. Don't advertise unless they pay us for it. It's generic energy drink, no company, no name, no logo. May or may not have a celestial star-shaped figure on it. Can't confirm or deny which energy drink it is.
I'll just put
the pay us the
tinfoil
big
around
bucks.
it next time.
Man. Where were we? Oh yeah, Halloween. Yeah, whatever, man. Whatever. I mean, like, so the new movies.
I mean, do you want to go into a
They
review, or
shoot
do you
off
want to go
from-
into just the controversy right now?
Okay, I'll just stick to. I was just gonna mention the controversy and then move
All right.
on to what else is going on in the world. Well, of TV and movies anyway, like we usually do with our home video headlines. I just wanted to say, like, so yes, classic Halloween fans and the current Halloween fans that have gone through these new movies, are mad about the running time that Michael Myers appears on screen. And the other complaint was like his lethargy. I read one comment that was like how lethargic he was, and the fact that a 70-year-old woman, etc., in quotations by a fan, spoiler alert, beats him up at the end of the movie. It's again Laurie Strode. It's again the Jamie Lee Curtis character. So she's been a consistent final girl in these movies and has fought him anyway. But also, they share the same DNA. So if there's anything like Rachel Hall in their blood or whatever, she has it too. And also, he was. If we're just following the continuity of these three movies that are linked to the original Halloween, is like one thing happened in this movie where during like one of the first kills, he got jacked on adrenaline again. Like he's like, oh, I have a reason to live again. I get to kill some more. Like, but also, his partial paralysis or whatever. Like they mutilated him in the previous sequel. You know what I mean? So physically, he's not the same. He's not the same guy, but also he's also elderly. He's a senior. It's like, this is how serial killers actually get caught in the United States. They become senior citizens and then they can't keep track of their evidence anymore and it gets out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like seriously. So,
I loved that they were like giving him liver spots and stuff this time around.
Oh,
like
yeah.
if you notice, like his hands were all
like he's a
old.
codger. He's an old man.
Yeah.
And
At first I thought he was hiding out as the homeless man. You know what I mean? Who lived in the tent. I was like, oh, he doesn't have a mask anymore. And that guy looks pretty grizzled. Maybe that's him just hanging out, No, lives in a sewer.
yeah.
So one of the older sequels, and like it's like, well, my favorite Halloween movie. Oh, we're gonna get sidetracked, David. I gotta shut up.
Well, we're gonna
lost.
get back into it. Let's just. I mean, basically, audiences are divided right now. People love it or hate it. We'll find out what camp we're in later, but like people are just coming hard at this movie. Like it seems like every year that we get a Halloween movie, like there's just a huge debate. Or earlier this year was Texas Chainsaw. Basically, any of the Sacred Cow movies, if you will, or series. I don't know. Golden Age movies. I don't know. Fanboys go crazy.
Dave, I don't know if you heard about this. Dario Argento's Phenomena is going to get a sequel. It's like 40 years later. Jennifer Connelly was the main girl in that movie, I think, who had the power to talk to insects or command insects. Something like that. And
Have you seen that
solve
movie?
a mystery?
Have you actually seen?
I've never seen this movie because I've watched most of Argento stuff, and of course, I love Demons and Demons 2 that he produced with the Bava.
I could be Johnny Spoiler for a moment because that has one of the weirdest endings to a movie ever.
All right, drop your dangerous details.
I mean, I
You
can't.
have your own
It's been years
catchphrases, Dave. Stick to your own lane.
It's been years since I've seen it, but the ending like involves an orangutan with a switchblade. No lie.
Whoa, dude.
Interesting.
Now the movie sounds better. Like, we got a monkey with a knife. We don't know what's gonna happen in theaters this fall.
My interest is definitely peaked now.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta see this.
But other people might know her from The Labyrinth or Career Opportunities or this movie called Dark City, which is more of a sci-fi. I don't know, sci-fi horror. It's a little bit like Hellraiser.
We've mentioned everything but the thing she's won an Academy Award for. Because
I don't even know what that movie is.
Exactly. I mean, it was that mathematician movie with Russell Crowe.
Okay.
A Beautiful Mind.
Moving on.
Yeah. Anyway.
Celebrities always die in threes. We got another trio here. Robbie Coltrane, who played, of course, Hagrid in all the Harry Potter movies. He's a good dude. He's one of those classically trained BBC actors. Harkening back to an old episode where Jordan and I watched Krull, he plays one of the thieves in that movie. He has a mustache. I literally only know him from these two things. He was Hagrid, and he was one of the guys in Krull. That's it. That's all I got.
That's it.
Angela Lansbury died. Murder, She Wrote. There's no way. Well, Jordan, when you would get a million points if you've already seen this movie I'm about to mention.
Oh God.
But the likelihood is very. I mean, people place your bets right now on DraftKings. Whether it would be great if we had our own little betting pool for has Jordan seen the movie or not? Flip a coin, spend real money. That'd be great. She was in a horror movie called Company of Wolves.
Mm-mm.
Oh dang! See, I took a chance. That was like maybe a 30% you get it because it's a werewolf movie. So
She was in that?
yeah, she's the grandma. She's the person the girl's looking for.
I gotta rewatch that. It's been
Yeah.
so long since I've seen it.
Okay.
And of course, Mrs. Potts.
I was gonna say, she plays
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
teapot in The Beauty and the Beast. Here's one that Dave might not know, but once he knows it exists, we'll probably seek it out. She played Mrs. Claus in a TV movie called Mrs. Claus.
I think
know
I've
this?
seen that.
All right. Okay, so he saw it. Check that off. All right. This other one, I sent Dave a message that just said like the F word, I think. Mike Skank, who was one of the co-stars in the documentary American Movie, died. So him and his buddy Mark, what's his name? David.
Mark Borchardt.
Oh yeah, Mark Borchardt. So Mark Borchardt is a filmmaker in the Midwest who does a lot of radio too, but he's basically like a guy that like Energizer Bunny. Do you remember these commercials when we were kids, Jordan? Like where the bunny just bangs his drum and keeps going?
Mm-hmm.
Like everything came at this guy. He's like another Kevin Smith, but like in his own little micro universe as well. Like a super film fan, references in all these movies and horror movies from the 50s and 60s, and then like made a short film and like, you know.
Well, he had a legendary documentary made about him, is what like kind of really.
Yeah. I don't know what the origin story is that, but like another filmmaker went out there while he was while they were trying to make their movies. They like filmed their just passion for making movies, and Mike was the friend. He's like the dude's best friend, childhood friend or whatever, and was helping him make these little movies. And just had like such a positive attitude. That's what people say the most is like that guy, unbreakably positive.
Yeah.
But I think Dave's like, well, part of that's probably to the perma-fried brain because he's like a recovered drug addict or whatever, right? But he's a nice guy.
I mean, it's all covered in that documentary.
Yeah.
The guy like perma-fried. I mean, I think that was even his term, but yeah, I mean, you know, I met quite a few people like that in real life, and it's, you know, they're usually happy guys because they, you know, they just become simple. I don't know what else to say.
Tonight's movie is Drag Me to Hell. When a bank teller refuses to extend a loan to an old gypsy, she gets dragged into a fiery underworld, and Justin Long plays her confused boyfriend through the movie. The main girl is Alison Lohman, who you might know. Back in the 1990s, they had a catchphrase called Indie Darlings. She was definitely considered one. She was in Big Fish. She's in this really good movie, Matchstick Men, about con artists. That should move closer to the top of your list there, Jordan. Matchstick Men. You ever see that one?
Just moved up.
It's got Nick Cage. It's
Nick
got
Cage and Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell, yeah, it's got a great cast, and she plays the daughter of the main crook / con man / what's it? He's an agoraphobic, isn't he, or something? What is his deal?
Agoraphobia or OCD or something like that.
Yeah, he's got something. He like fantasizes about like all the germs like pooling together, like off of the doorways, the outside, the people. It's really weird. He's got some issues, but then he's also running this scam the whole movie. And then kind of I'm like talking about everything but tonight's movie. That's fun. I was about to say like, what are the themes of freaking Matchstick Men? This episode's not about Matchstick Men.
We'll have to do that another time. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Dave, you got any dangerous details about Drag Me to Hell?
Yeah. So, that's not the right one. as you mentioned, Alison Lohman, she actually did most of her stunts in this movie, and it actually became so stressful that she developed shingles during filming and would have to shoot shots of tequila at night just to go to sleep. So he put her through the ringer in this movie.
She got so stressed out about like the content of the movie, like
no, just the physical toil. Like, you know, he puts his act. You know,
well, that's what I mean. Like, because the movie is like centered around her character having to. She's like experiencing.
She's basically tortured through the whole movie.
Is what tortured?
Tortured, yeah, by spirits. We'll get into. So Mrs. Ganesh, the gypsy lady in the movie, her car in the movie is Sam Raimi's personal Oldsmobile Delta 88 that has been featured in all of his movies, including the Evil Dead movies and even The Quick and the Dead, which is actually a Western, but it was dressed up as a wagon. So he's found a way to work that car into every single movie of his. So this could have been a much different movie. Originally, Elliot Page was slated to play the role of Christine, but had to drop out because they were making the movie Whip It. I think Alison Lohman got a bump up over that. A much better movie. So this film was in the works for nearly 20 years, with the director wanting to make it after Army of Darkness back in '92, but other projects kept getting in the way. Eventually, the Spider-Man trilogy. At some point, Raimi wanted to offered it to Edgar Wright to direct, who was actually busy making Hot Fuzz, and he said he didn't want to do it because he just felt like it'd be doing a karaoke version of a Sam Raimi movie. And actually, this is the only one of the few movies to not have a cameo by Bruce Campbell, because I guess he was busy doing a TV show at the time, Burn Notice. Never saw it, but I guess he couldn't do this movie because of that. So those are the facts.
Are you sticking by him, Dave?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, we'll be right back to the podcast in progress, talking about our favorite bits from Drag Me to Hell. And we're going to rate it as well. Binge now, binge later, binge never. Can't wait to see how savagely it gets roasted by Jordan, or if Dave's going to give you his dangerous opinion on any of the movies tonight. We'll find out. Only one message tonight, folks. It's from our friends Keeps. I don't know if Dave remembers this. It's like podcast sponsor past. It's like Keeps is the hair product. Let's see. Better hair is just a rinse away. You can use the Keeps shampoo and conditioner along with your Keeps treatment plan. And they've formulated by Keeps advisors, so some of the world's foremost hair loss experts are here to help strengthen your hair while making it fuller and thicker. Here's some fast facts, David, about the Keeps shampoo and conditioner. It comes in an 8-ounce container, all natural ingredients such as saw palmetto, biotin, and this is really funny, caffeine and green tea. I never thought about putting caffeine in my hair, but I might order the shampoo to do that because that seems pretty direct. Just shampoo it in, let it sink into your follicles. Yeah, 300 milligrams. Let's go. It's paraben free. The milligrams aren't real. That's not part of the real message. I was just thinking about like how much can I get in my hair. And it can be purchased separately or together. It's a great everyday option. And we're gonna drop a link. You can save 35% off right now. They're all Thinking shampoo and conditioner from our affiliate Keeps. You can find the link in the podcast notes, or I'll be posting it somewhere. You'll find it. Usually on Tuesday, I'm going to start dropping these support the sponsor social things. So anyway, you'll find it somewhere. Dave, you can find it somewhere.
All right.
Related to the podcast, you'll find it. Don't just like Google them and then get it somewhere else. At least
we got to go through our affiliate link.
Yeah, you got to use the link. That's how the internet works. You have to use a link. Well, I'll get in trouble for that part. Anyway, back to the podcast. Already in progress.
It's time for the bits.
Oh yeah, it's time for Jordan to lead us in the bits.
The bits.
Woo.
Yeah. Wow. I'm reading some of the trivia notes, but that Alison Lohman did all of her own stunts, so I could see why she was put through the ringer on this. But
yeah.
Definitely had the gag factor there on this movie. We had been talking about how the vomit really gets me, but this was like impressive.
I forgot about that.
Oh no.
No, it was like impressive.
It's possible, like subconsciously, I picked this movie because it has like 6 scenes of that fear that you have. Holy crap!
It's like, and it's not even like the other ones got me a little gross, but this I was like, ew, screaming at the screaming at the TV. Like the first time when she's having the full out battle scene with the old lady, Mrs. Ganush, in the like parking garage, and they are just brawling with each other.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Ganush flies forward and hits her head on the dash, and her dentures fly out of her mouth, and then she's like attacking Christine like all over the face, and she's just like gumming her face. That was like it for me. I was like, that is disgusting. And the vomit part, it was like all of the like bile, like when she falls on top of her at the funeral. And so it was just like gag scene was totally there. The fight scene was probably my favorite scene in it all. There was some times where I was like, this is a little too much, like not with the gag, but like could have been really cool if they stuck to a little bit more of like the lore part of the movie, you know, all the way through. But, you know.
Well, did you like the I think the worst of the vomit is like actually the bodily fluids when she accidentally shows up at the old lady's funeral. Like she's trying to make amends and get the curse undone. Yeah.
And it's like coming out like a fire hose.
So folks, she tips the body over on accident and it drains bodily fluid into her face and mouth. Yeah. Pretty gnarly stuff.
The beginning when they're meeting and she's like hawking up into her like her.
It's like what do they call that on the internet? SAMR when they exaggerate.
ASMR.
Yeah.
It's usually people eating these mukbang things. That's what they call these videos. But
no, that's not ASMR. That's just gross.
What? All I'm saying is like that's what this movie is like. It makes everything exaggerated. Like everything that you hear makes all the grotesque stuff even grosser. Because it's all exaggerated, or it's like definitely it's like intense,
very intense.
Yeah.
So they did great with that. If I, yeah. What about you, Dave? What's your favorite bits?
Oh man, it's more of like whittling down what's the ones to say. You know the car fight scene or in the parking lot, like you said. This has a weird out of place talking goat, or not really so much out of place if you see it in the context of the movie, but you got talking goats, evil talking goats. But the part that got me,
that's the demon.
Yeah, well, because they put the spirit into the goat, or started,
yeah.
Right. So, the part that got me,
evil. That's one of the most Evil Dead parts too. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
But the part that got me this time is because this movie's ridiculous and it means to be. But there's a part I whatever blocked out, but it keyed me in this time. This movie's a cartoon, and there's a very clear way to know that this movie has an anvil in it. Like has no reason to have an anvil hanging above in her like storage shed or whatever. So Miss Ganesh comes in, freaks her out. She chops with her.
Well, she's like in her storage shed trying to find things to trade to sell
to buy,
raise money to supposedly have the freaking spiritual guides banish the demon. Like that's the set price. If you don't got 10 grand, we can't banish the demon.
Exactly,
David.
So she's grabbing her figure skate. And Miss Ganesh is attacking her in the storage shed, and she cuts this rope with her ice or skate. An anvil comes down. Again, who has an anvil at all?
Just randomly hanging out.
Plonks her head, CGI, eyes and blood pour into her face again.
Oh, the CGI sucks in this movie.
It kind of
ruins the practicals.
But having said that, like that was the first time I realized, like, oh, this is like a Bugs Bunny cartoon because like literally down to an anvil falling on her head, and that's just something I never gave much thought to before for some reason. But that moment just kind of stuck with me this time, even though yes, the CGI kind of sucks.
But don't you feel like the movie's a melodrama? Like you called it a cartoon, but don't you think it's like they take it actually like extra seriously? And then don't acknowledge certain things. Like it blew my mind in the scene where she's when she's puking blood at the bank. Like they don't really acknowledge the fact that like she's having possibly a medical emergency or is about to die in seconds because she just theoretically the movie exaggerated so much that like that's like an entire body's worth of blood, right? That's like all her blood in her body on her desk at the bank during that part of the movie. Man.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's like really overdone, which I love, but then it pivots into this point of where it like does feel very cartoonish. And I'm like, okay, so I would have preferred like maybe that the whole way, but it just seems like a gradual thing. And then all of a sudden it's just like talking goats, So I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh man, and that wasn't even her favorite bit, but she got
Um,
around to it. Talking goats.
What about
What
you,
about your
John?
favorite bit?
Wow. They really want to know if I have a favorite bit.
Bits.
Gosh, I like the commitment to the idea. I mean, I just like what happens in the end. Spoiler alert: she goes to hell. The movie's called "Drag Me to Hell." She goes to hell. At first, I when I watched this movie for the first time, I thought she was going to pin it on the boyfriend, and Justin Long would go to hell, or somebody at the bank, like the other manager who screwed her over would go to hell. But no, I mean, I guess that's her only redeeming quality is the fact that she gets punished, right? Like she decides to deal with it, but then she has like one final chance to get out of the curse. But like, if anything, if Hollywood has taught us anything, like you can't actually get out of the curses. It's just like you can pass it on to somebody else, maybe if you're lucky. Like in a movie called Thinner, and there might be another movie where they pass a curse to somebody else, but I can't remember.
It's the one that I interviewed with. What was that called again? Do you remember?
What was it about?
Like it was the teenagers and like they were passing the curse when they were having
Oh, it's
sex.
the It
It
Follows
Follows.
movie, which
Yeah.
I tell like everybody, if somebody's like not that much into horror or they're just tired of everything else, they go, "What about It Follows?" They go, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, this thing is like it will follow you. You can't get rid of it." Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, like you can only pass it on. You can't get rid of it. Man.
Don't you think it's kind of like messed up though that like this movie's not a moral tale or anything because technically she was just doing her job, and she still gets screwed over. Like she wasn't a bad person at the end of the day.
She
But
also
still got
admits
screwed over.
She also admits though, she's like, I could have gotten her another extension. Like in the towards the end of the movie. When she's talking with her boyfriend. But it's like, was she just saying that to like I don't know. I'm sure we could read into that a billion different ways.
But anybody could say that with a job like, oh, I could have pushed it through. I mean, I didn't necessarily feel that was like
You got a yes man. Remember that? He had the same job and he stamped everything yes. 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 Till it ruined his life. But I don't know, Dave. Like, are you just a corporate stooge? You just not gonna help people? Like, actually, when the movie came out, I'd be like, okay, she snapped, she had a bad day. She's gonna help the next 3 loan applicants. But in where we are now with the economy and how I personally feel slighted as a human being, I'd be like, yeah, she's going to hell. And maybe she deserves to be there. Especially if like you're dealing with an insurance agent, on the other end of a bad car accident, you're just like, you know what? Once the communication breaks down, maybe the bank teller deserves to go where she goes.
I don't know. I think the difference is like she didn't have any.
Oh, you know what though? They didn't write any redeemable qualities for the other lady, which they probably should have. It would have been a much better movie if they Angela Lansbury the character. Like she could do all those horrible things, but what if she had like some redeemable qualities, even as the monster, right? Because in theory, I mean, how bad was she? Like, I guess she put their curse on her. But then at some point, the demon takes over, so it's really not the lady. Even though the movie kind of makes make-believe of, like, she's still influencing stuff from beyond the grave, right? Yeah. I thought Dave froze that time. Just thinking about it.
Frozen thought.
Thinking about
what happened.
So I guess we also put it out there to see if we could watch other movies. And so they know you're already going to talk about Halloween. So do you quickly want to talk about Hellbenders for a second? Did you have a chance to watch that one?
Yes, I did.
So isn't this one that you wanted to get around to for a while?
I mean, I hadn't heard of it until you mentioned it. Oh
shit, I thought you knew. But this is basically like there's a group of priests. They're from a special school of thought of like they have to commit more sins that are their enemies. So if somebody gets possessed, then they qualify to just like quickly like shortcut them to hell or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, early, spoiler alert, binge later. I mean, I like the concept.
I didn't let you rate the other movie. You want to back it up real quick and rate the...
Well, earlier I said, hey, we want to binge or rate. All right, Jordan, what'd you think of Drag Me to Hell? What's your rating?
Binge later, for sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
But I had seen it before too. I'd seen it.
Oh, you had?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is like one of the one movies where
Oh, you
I'm
didn't
like,
stop
okay,
us. If you had seen it before, we would have watched something else.
Oh shit. I mean,
Yeah, we were under the impression that you hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
I guess I should probably say. Well, I didn't really know if I did until it was like halfway through the movie.
Oh, okay. It was one of
It was
those
one of
movie
the-
amnesias.
Yeah, it was movie
Okay,
amnesia, and
Fair
so I got through, and I was like, oh, but I don't know if I actually had seen it to completion, if that makes sense. So binge later, but binge later. What about you, Dave?
It's a binge now for me. I saw this movie opening night when it came out. I actually saw this movie twice in the theaters. I don't know. It just hit the right spot for me. I still had a fun time watching it this time. So yeah, binge now. One of Sam Raimi's best. That is not Evil Dead.
I think if I watch Evil Dead, I might understand it a little bit better too. So it's going on the list.
You can even skip Evil Dead 1 and just go to Evil Dead 2 and you'll get the
I was
same
gonna say,
thing.
yeah, just
There we
start with
go.
Evil Dead 2, and then go to Army of
I
Darkness,
think
and then
the
watch
whole
the.
like CGI.
There's a Spanish remake though that's pretty good too. I mean, well, it's made by a Spanish filmmaker. I think he's a Spanish filmmaker,
Fede, yeah, or yeah.
or just Latinx, as John Leguizamo likes to say. Just lump them all together.
Hmm.
There you go.
Okay.
What'd
you rate it?
It actually moved. I used to like this movie a lot, but then maybe I don't know. Did I just play it out? I
Yeah,
remember
it
liking it a
happens.
lot, and I didn't like it as much this time. So, but again, you get a lot of props to like not letting the studio back you down from the idea of like the girl's not gonna make it in the end, which is different from most horror movies, right? You start the movie with the final girl, and the final girl is the final victim. So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. There's not a lot of death or murders either. There's only like accidental or coincidental deaths. You know what I mean? Like they want to set up how it works, so they show you one death like that, and then she's stalked through the whole movie, and of course the old lady dies from her cancer or whatever. And I confused the audience. I'm sorry, I jumped around. I had Dave go back and rate the movie of the week, and then we were already talking about Hellbenders.
Yeah.
Which is again independent. It's a better idea than a movie. But I think get around to it. If you're just tired of the same old crap, get around to it. All right, we can dive head first. Unless Jordan, you want to comment? Did you watch the Priest movie?
No, but
Oh,
I'll
okay.
put it on the
All right.
list. Yeah, Halloween.
But they drink and smoke and screw in order to get into hell instead of heaven, so they can drag possessed people with them.
Oh, it sounds right up
It's-
my alley. So
It's got an interesting
definitely give it a watch.
cast. It doesn't quite get to where it doesn't quite get off the launch pad, but it's kind of interesting to watch.
I think that's a problem. I mean, it's fine. It's missing an ingredient or two. And
It's one of those movies that suffers from the budget. They clearly run out of money
Yeah.
before they can get to their third act, you know. Then it's like they just made it up just to write it out. Halloween Ends, which is it's David Gordon Green. I'm saying the guy's name right. Am I, David?
You
That's the
are,
director,
you are.
right?
You got it.
All right. He's one of the Danny McBride friends, you know, a group of friends that came from the same area and started making movies. And he wanted to do Halloween, and he had a good idea, and he talked to Jamie Lee Curtis to come back. This is the third movie. Supposed to be her last appearance as Laurie Strode, and she takes on her older brother Michael Myers again. At the beginning of the episode, we were talking a lot of stuff because the audience is split. Old Halloween fans are split. And it does something. David's right. You want to tell them what it does, similar to Friday the 13th?
Well, it basically, I mean, it doesn't directly rip off, but it takes elements of Friday the 13th Part 5, which, spoiler alert, Jason is hardly part of. In fact, I think in that one, he doesn't even pop up until the very end, if I remember right.
Yeah, there's an imitation killer, which excites Jason, and he comes back or something like that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a fake out movie in a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean, there is a Michael Myers in it, but I mean, it is mainly the Corey show, if you will. Who, I don't know, John, if you want to get into who he is.
Well, I actually feel bad because there's people that have issues like Corey and they're not serial killers. So I do feel bad about like, that's a stereotype, but I'm going to get past that. So like there's a horrible accident that now mars this guy's, his life is now marred by a tragic accident. And then, so he slips into like, he just like fully cracks, gets bullied, gets more traumatized, and then wants to be coached in the world of serial killing by Michael Myers, who's living in the sewer, like I said, is half crippled, gets reinvigorated by the fact that there's a kid who's clearly a nutball trying to get his attention. But the movie makes it clear that Michael Myers didn't see the relationship the same way. That was basically like the Corey character was playing with a venomous spider the whole time, and the spider just finally got around to being so irritated he dealt with him. But I mean, I could spoil some serious moments from this movie, and I don't think I should. Like, I'm not going to say what happens to Corey or the granddaughter, who's now the niece. So I will say, I was talking to Jordan about how like we would take a whole podcast to try to explain the different Halloween movies, because this is like maybe the fourth version of Michael Myers that have nothing to do with each other. But there was a niece in the original continuity who's like a played by Danielle Harris, who's like my favorite character in all the Halloween movies. But the niece in this movie is completely different, but the family unit is still kind of there. There's a sister and a niece, which they did that before. So the family takes on Michael Myers again. The town is still upset. It has some incredible kills, though. I will say, like, so Halloween, whatever. What was the first one called? Do you remember? Because Halloween Kills.
It was Halloween.
It was just called Halloween. Okay, so like
it's just been dubbed Halloween 2018.
It was 2018 Halloween. Whatever. Lukewarm. They tried to wash the taste out of the mouth of like the Rob Zombie Halloweens and move on. And they brought back some of the characters from the original. Part 2, it's horrible.
Halloween Kills.
Except
Halloween Kills was awful except for the kills.
Well, yeah, except for the kills. But they have a lynch party, like attack Michael Myers, and that's what cripples him. That's why it's crippled him to get into the third one. Physically,
it was almost like the end of a Agatha Christie novel. Like, oh, we all killed him, we all stabbed him. Like,
yeah,
the whole town.
But this is where I think like he seems supernatural in the second one to get up and walk away.
Yeah.
So he's definitely more limited in the third one. That's more realistic. But one of my favorite filmmakers shows up as a deputy in part 2, and so I was like, oh, I'm cool with that cameo. It's the guy that made that werewolf movie that we're always talking about. Help me out here. His name is Jim.
Jim Cummings.
Every time I forget like an actor's name on here, I do feel like I have dementia or something. I'm like, I can't remember the names of the actors.
We've been so much, it all blends in.
Yeah. So anyway, that guy, he's really cool. We covered his werewolf movie. We recommended it to Jordan. I don't know if we ever. I think that was one of the ones we had you mini review. I think.
Which werewolf movie? What was the
Wolf of Snow Hollow?
Yeah, Wolf of Snow Hollow.
We never got around. We watched 6, so I think we got cut off.
I think we covered that right before you got on the show.
Yeah, I think we just recommended it to you. Where are we, David? What's going on?
I guess we're still talking about.
Okay, so we're talking about the third one. So so the rules of horror movies, like when in the 80s and 90s, they only compiled these rules. Basically, fans of horror movies compiled a set of rules. Like, we noticed that in these 10 movies, if you have sex, you die. If you say you're going to be right back, you're never back. Like, there's all these tropes, right? Like all these like cliches, right? That became like the rules of the horror movies. And one of them is the first movie establishes the rules. They talk about this like the original Scream, I think. Like Jamie Kennedy, Randy character is talking about the rules. Yeah, but then and then in part 2, I think they're talking about the sequel exaggerates the rules. I think that's what he says about the second one, but I know the third one, it's like throwing the rules up in the air and seeing where they land. Like, they don't matter anymore by the third movie. And same thing here. Like, the movie's not obsessed with Michael Myers. It introduces another killer. And I thought it was going to be like, it's a passing of the torch. Like, we're going to now get 3 more movies with a different boogeyman. And then and they would have spent all this time, all this money to get back to part 3, which is every Halloween's going to be different, but we're finally going to have an anthology. You know what I mean? But then this movie does something that you go, I guess maybe not. They're not going to be able to go in that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure we'll get into ratings in a minute, but I guess I'll just get into my rating and mini review right now. I love this movie. I really did. I had the lowest expectations and came out like I haven't had this much fun with the movie in a while. At first I thought to myself, this is a good, bad movie. Like, this is so stupid. It's hilarious. But the more time I've spent with it, I mean, this has got Danny McBride as one of the writers on this. He's like a really funny guy. And David Gordon Green is, despite Halloween Kills, he's actually a good filmmaker. He's more used to making serious movies, if you will, or dramas. So it is kind of interesting that he's taken on a horror trilogy like this. But he's not an incompetent filmmaker, and none of them are incompetent writers. I think everything is intentional. I think this is a comedy as well as a horror movie. Like there's really hilarious stuff. The first 10 minutes, I've had the hardest laugh that I've ever had in a long time. And I can't believe that was by accident. This movie takes chances, and it's
Did you laugh at the tragedy?
Of course I did. That was hilarious.
Oh my God.
That kid got
one of those
heated.
horror rules.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's why it took me by surprise, because it really, 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 spoiler alert. I'm sorry, everybody's watching it right now. It's on Peacock.
Wait, did you laugh because the kid was a jerk, or you just
he was a little shithead, and then he got what got coming to him in movie roles. Like if this was a real life newspaper event, of course that's tragic. But this is a movie. It's make believe. That's fucking hilarious. I'm sorry.
I agree. I 100% agree. Yeah.
I mean, it's, spoiler alert, a kid dies at the very beginning, and it's very bloody. Like you see a gallon of blood come out of this kid. I'm a sick person.
Cracks like an egg, David.
But I mean, like you said, I was screaming at the screen in delight, like with certain kills. I mean, the very, very end of what happens to Michael Myers was pretty fun to watch. This movie takes chances that pissed off a lot of people, and I'm more happy that this movie did something so different instead of the same old what every other horror movie does. So yeah, I'm in the camp that loves it. So binge now for me.
I don't have that much to say about it, but I'm in the same boat as you, Dave. I really liked it. I had low expectations. Kills were great. I also just, because I got your guys' opinion before I had watched it too, so I tried to come at it with a even ground, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. So binge now for sure.
Well, it's the best of these three new Halloweens. It's subversive, sure. But guess what? Halloween 4 is still the greatest Halloween movie of all time, David. Jordan, if you ever get around to it. Halloween 4.
Trying to do the Halloween math. I feel like Zach Galifianakis in that GIF with the numbers and stuff, and I'm trying to realize what number 4 is actually.
I don't know. I know a lot of people love 4. I don't know, man. I'm of the mind Halloween is 3 movies, and one of them is not even it's its own movie. It's Halloween.
That's bullshit.
Ends.
If you're going to disregard Halloween 4, but then promote Halloween 3 over it,
I'm not saying
which
has
just
nothing
to do with Michael Myers.
Here's
where it falls apart, folks. Dave and I definitely take different paths.
It's okay to like a movie.
Halloween
It's okay
walk.
to not like a movie. What can you say? Just didn't work on me.
Halloween 4 is the greatest Halloween movie of all time. The actor from Halloween 4, Danielle Harris, who I mentioned before, she actually has a podcast with the other actress that played Laurie Strode in the Rob Zombie movie, Rob Zombie Halloweens.
Oh, Scout Taylor or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
That's it. Jordan's had enough. She's yawning.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about these Halloween movies. Go away.
I care a little.
Hilarious. Any last comments, David?
I don't know. Milk duds are good. I don't know. I'm thinking Halloween candy.
Is everybody thinking about his Halloween candy, folks? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.